Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the webinar, and hopefully all of you made it on time and everything's good. I just want to make sure my audio is playing okay. Looks like it is. There's nothing worse than hosting a webinar and you don't have good audio. I've only had it happen once, knock on wood, but that was once too many. So, once again, welcome to the webinar. I am Dr. Stephen Phelan. Most of you, I would expect, if you're here, know me. But if you don't, this is me. And this is my wife, Melissa, my son, Jack, and my daughter, Kylie. And we're big Star Wars fans. This is a picture from the Star Wars Day at Sea Disney cruise. And I'm dressed as a Jedi, giving a force push to Lord Vader. And my son's a stormtrooper commander, and Kylie's actually not dressed up there. She was dressed up as Rey though that day. So it's lots of fun. We love Star Wars, and the other thing that we like to do is go to our cottage. And what I discovered is I really like wake surfing. So this is wake surfing on Canadian Thanksgiving weekend, and what I'll tell you or share with you is the lake was pretty cold. So I went out. This was on the Friday night of Canadian Thanksgiving, and it was a nice warm day. So I said, okay, I'm going out to the lake to do some wake surfing after the Jays game. The Jays were playing. Afternoon playoff game. So I went down and went wake surfing, and I was kind of rushed because I watched the end of the Jays game, and I didn't put on my wetsuit or my neoprene shoes or anything. I just went out. And it was cold. My feet were starting to freeze and basically become numb. But I only went for half an hour, and it was beautiful. It was worth it. The trees were starting to change color. It was a beautiful, nice sunny day. So even though it was the end of the day, it was still really nice. So it was a lot of fun. Love wake surfing. The other thing that I'm really passionate about is clinical dentistry. And I've been really passionate about continuing education, especially when I was a young dentist trying to put together the systems that I use in my practice. Being kind of an everyday practice, I wanted to create something that works in my practice. So I went to IDEA, I went to the Coys Center, I went to the Seattle Institute, which was Spear's teaching center before he moved to Scottsdale and became Spear Education. I went to Dawson Academy. I became an accredited member of the AACD at a young age. In my early 30s, in May, I guess, well, it was really 1998, I became accredited. I was awarded the plaque in 99. So, all of this was really things that I did as a young dentist. Because I was very passionate about dentistry. The problem I discovered pretty early as a young dentist was I could take all this great CE. I took some great CE and learned some amazing dental techniques. The problem I discovered is that does not always translate into treatment in the chair. Just knowing the clinical techniques doesn't mean that you're going to be able to have patients accept treatment and go forward with these treatment plans, because unfortunately, the more clinical techniques and sophistication the more expensive the treatment plans tend to become, especially for elective dentistry. So I learned pretty early that I had to also create a case acceptance system. And part of what I discovered when I was doing my AACD accreditation was something that I'll share with you later tonight about case acceptance that had a profound impact on me as a young dentist and really changed the course, I think, of my practice. Being able to gain really great case acceptance going forward for, the last almost 20 years since then. So tonight, I'm going to share with you some of this insight I've gained in the last 25 years, because when I was young, I did a lot of clinical training right away, but I needed to learn also case acceptance. And you need to have both of these to be successful, because there's nothing more frustrating than having some really excellent clinical training and having the mindset that my patients don't really do that kind of dentistry. My patients just aren't interested in that kind of dentistry. People from my town are not interested in this kind of dentistry. That's a really defeating mindset, especially when you're really keen and excited about dentistry and excited about the CE that you've learned, to discover that you don't have a system in place to actually gain case acceptance. So I think that what I'm going to teach you tonight is going to be really powerful. And even if you have great case acceptance, you can always learn new things that can really add to your case acceptance. So I think that this webinar is relevant to all walks of, dental practices. And why is this topic important? Well, as I said, clinical dentistry, clinical skills, clinical CE knowledge is really just entertainment and knowledge that you have in your head and isn't applied until you're able to have case acceptance. And the other thing that I'd like to share with you is I believe there are many people looking for this kind of dentistry. I think there are many people looking in all communities all around the world for this kind of dentistry. They just don't know who to trust and where to go. Now, some communities have more of these people than others, but I'll tell you, I think that every community has these patients. They just need to know that you're the person to go to for this kind of dentistry. And, this is really relevant to us in clinical practice today. If you look at a patient I worked on yesterday, this lady came in to see me. She had already seen somebody and had a workup to have veneers, upper veneers anyway, to help her with her tooth wear and her tetracycline staining. And she got kind of spooked because she wasn't really thrilled with the crown lengthening appointment or crown lengthening results that they achieved. So she went online and found me, which is pretty cool. This patient wasn't referred by another dentist or another patient. It was somebody who found me online through my online presence. And so I spoke with her when she came in for her initial consultation, and we talked about what I thought could be done for her. And I also made sure I told her it's a very difficult case because of the tetracycline staining and the tooth position post-orthodontically and the gingival levels post-crown lengthening. So, I had an initial consultation, talk with her, and then I'll share with you as I share how I go through presenting treatment to patients through this webinar. I'll mention what I did because I followed my system for this. And I followed my system for this. She accepted treatment. The fees were quite a bit higher than what the office that she had left. She told me that, but she said she felt very confident in my ability to deliver the treatment. I think because of a lot of the case presentation aids that I have in my practice, or case presentation tools that I have in my practice. So she felt very confident with having me complete her treatment. And in fact, I shared a lot of this treatment with my members, my Occlusion Design members coaching webinar this month. If you look, this is a slide kind of summarizing a lot of the preparation and provisional creation for this patient. And I actually took a lot of video with this case, prepping the teeth, creating the mock-up and creating the depth cuts in the mock-up and prepping the teeth so that we'd have a really optimal thickness of restoration for the porcelain veneers, because this was going to be a tough case with the amount of substructure staining the patient has from the tetracycline. And then, discussed how we made this provisional, how we bonded in the provisional. Now, the problem is, I did warn her of this, the porcelain veneers will mask the tetracycline preparations better than the plastic provisional can. So there will be a period where the provisional will look a little low in value because you can't mask extremely well with the provisional. Although maybe I could have used a flowable composite that's very opaque. But anyway, it wasn't a big issue. It was more at this stage we want to see shape and we want to evaluate the bite. The funny thing is I put this one picture of the provisional here on Facebook, and this dentist asked me how, he said, the margins don't look very good on that veneer. And I said, sorry, that's the provisional. That's not the veneers, the final veneers. These are not the final veneer margins. And he said, oh, I was wondering how you got them all to stand straight up on the mirror like that. It was pretty funny. So he misinterpreted my picture, obviously. But these are pretty good margins for provisionals. They're cemented with flowable composites, so any little jagged areas in the margin get filled in with the flowable composite. Not really an acceptable margin for the final porcelain, though. But if you look, here are the final porcelain restorations. All the margins are smooth and nicely fitting. So the only thing with these are, we've had to layer in, my ceramist, Harold Heindel, has had to layer in a fair amount of opacity to block out the preparation substrate color. But what he did was he layered in some opacity, but he also layered in a fair amount over the opacious dentin layer of translucency as well, so that these look more realistic and more lifelike. So we add opacity in the initial layer because he's making these as feldspathic porcelain veneers that are layered on refractory dies, and then more translucency as he gets to the surface. And again, I used this mock-up preparation technique to guarantee that I could provide an optimal thickness for these restorations for Harold to build these with. And then I inserted the case yesterday. She's still numb here, obviously, but this shows you kind of the restorations. Followed the provisionals very carefully. Here are the provisionals. Here are the final restorations. She's thrilled. She told me she was thrilled. They're not really so far off of the lower that it's a big problem. Her lower teeth have been bleached and they're still low value because of the tetracycline staining. So we lowered the value of the veneers a touch to compensate for that. But there's a lot of translucency, which lowers the value also. But this basically is the case. And she'll be back in a few weeks. We'll take some after photos. And I videotaped some of the seeding of this in my Zeiss microscope when I was seeding the anterior restorations. And I'll share that with my Occlusion Design members, kind of when we finish the case. Final photos of the case, etc. So that's that case. And I'll tell you again, many people are looking for this kind of dentistry. There's a tremendous number of people looking for this kind of dentistry. They just don't know who to trust, and they don't know where to go. And I think that I'm really accurate in saying that all communities have some patients out there looking for this kind of dentistry. I truly believe this. And I believe you could become the go-to dentist in your community. You just have to be able to have some systems in place for people to know that you're here and available and you can do this kind of dentistry, and to manage people as they come through the practice. Because case acceptance for elective dentistry, so elective dentistry, case acceptance to master case acceptance for elective dentistry, you need a different model from the one that you would use for needs-based dentistry. And, this patient did have some significant tooth wear and definitely, non-optimal tooth shade because of the tetracycline staining. But the bottom line is, this is still elective dentistry. This is elective dentistry. It's not a fractured tooth that has to be managed. It's really elective dentistry. So, with elective dentistry, you need a different model for case presentation. And, this webinar is going to teach you systems for elective dentistry, but it's also going to teach you some nice ideas for needs-based dentistry as well, for needs-based dentistry case acceptance. I'm going to share with you a case presentation that I have created for needs-based dentistry that could easily add, $6,000 of production each and every month to your practice and help save some teeth. without even trying. You wouldn't even have to use it yourself. You'd just have to show this to your dental hygienist. And this would, I would suggest, increase your production at least $6,000 per month. So, critical mistakes I talked about in the webinar registration form. Critical mistake number 1, I would say, is presenting elective dentistry to the wrong patients. And by saying wrong patients, I'm not meaning bad patients for your practice or patients that are undesirable in any way. I'm not, saying, anything bad about these people. They're just not motivated at this time for elective dentistry. They could be awesome patients in your practice, coming in on regular recall, doing all the basic restorative dentistry that you recommend that's needed. But for elective dentistry, these people are not motivated. They're not interested. And that's cool. Every practice, general practice, needs a large number of these patients to run your hygiene program. But to really enjoy dentistry, at least for me, I need a number of patients that are looking for elective dentistry because I like that kind of dentistry. But realistically, that is elective dentistry. So here's something that I think is a really big mindset shift that will help free you up and free up your mindset about this kind of dentistry. And that is, you cannot create a motivated patient. You really cannot create a motivated patient who wants to do this kind of dentistry. You cannot create this for this patient. So you don't have to feel bad that you're talking about this kind of dentistry and patients aren't accepting the treatment. They're just not motivated. You cannot create a motivated patient for this kind of dentistry. What you can do is spark motivation in somebody who may become interested, but you cannot create it. So again, you cannot create a motivated patient. You cannot create an inspired patient, somebody who's really ready, inspired, and wanting to go ahead with this treatment. The patient that I just showed you, she came into my practice. She was motivated, inspired, and ready to go ahead with treatment. She just needed to find the dentist that she would trust to do the case. So she came in to see me. Went pretty well with the initial consultation, and she went through our case acceptance and treatment planning protocol and went ahead, and we obviously have completed her treatment. Almost completed her treatment. We still have some follow-up appointments. But basically, I did not create the inspiration or motivation for that patient. She came in with that. So one thing that you need is the ability to attract that kind of patient, obviously. So you need to create a system in your practice to only treatment plan, though, elective dentistry for the motivated patient. Because you could spend a lot of time treatment planning and going through and doing records and mounting cases and analyzing models for patients that have no interest in this elective dentistry. They would just like a couple of fillings completed. So you need to be able to identify the motivated patient and identify the patient who's not motivated. And I think that my system does a good job of this. So how do you identify the motivated patients? Again, I have a system for this. I think that the way that we follow this in my practice eliminates a lot of wasted time for me and my patients who maybe aren't motivated, inspired for this kind of dentistry. And that's cool. I have nothing against somebody who's not interested in this kind of dentistry. We need a bunch of these patients for a hygiene program, and we're happy to help them with their needs-based dentistry because I only need a few elective dentistry patients to work on any given month because the cases are so interesting and fun and take up a lot of my time. So I need, for a hygiene program, a lot of needs-based dentistry patients, and that's cool to have them in the practice. And you know what's the cool thing? I'll show you some techniques during this webinar to help some of those patients become inspired and interested and ultimately motivated for this kind of dentistry, because some of them will. They just, a lot of the time, aren't motivated or interested or inspired at this point in time. So what I follow is what I call my velocity case acceptance framework. And this looks kind of like, what's this for us as dentists? But it does make sense. If you watch this and you learn what I'm talking about here, you'll understand what I'm talking about makes sense so that you don't waste a lot of time treatment planning cases for patients that really have no intention of doing the cases. And they're just kind of curious, but not really that interested, motivated, or inspired. So if you look at this, I'll explain each level on the pyramid. But I'll tell you when is the best time to present your treatment plan for elective dentistry, not needs-based dentistry, but for elective dentistry. And your best time is when patients have reached the top of the pyramid. If you present it too early, you're going to get less case acceptance. If you put patients through the pyramid who shouldn't be going through the pyramid, you're probably going to get less case acceptance. And both of these things will lead to frustration and the mindset in your head that my patients don't want this kind of dentistry, which is a very defeating mindset that you don't want to create if you can help it, because that'll lead you to less and less opportunities to actually do this kind of dentistry, because it's a self-fulfilling mindset in a sense. So this framework starts with marketing. And for the case that I showed you earlier, she came in based on looking at my website and looking at, I think, my Facebook page for my practice, not the Phelan Dental Seminars one. And so she came in through external online marketing. And about a year and a half ago, in 2015, I was journaling in my Moleskine journal, and I came up with this strategic branding and marketing framework. And it was really a way to interconnect my ideas and put everything out there to create what I would call online domination in my community. So if you are interested in online domination in your community, you need to be kind of everywhere online with good content. And so this was something that I taught in day one of my Velocity seminar. So converting patients into leads in the chair, that's part 2 of the framework. And really, the first thing is you get people interested. But whether it be online marketing, offline marketing, external marketing, internal marketing, you get people interested, they call your office or they email your office. Nowadays, emailing the office is fairly relevant as well. But ultimately, we'd like to get the patient on the phone. We'd like my receptionist to call them and discuss setting up an appointment for them. And when we do this, we follow a phone inquiry tracking sheet. And I think that this is important so that you can get the patient converted and from a lead to a patient in the chair. And so a couple of things on this tracking sheet that I think are really important. You want to ask them, who can we thank for referring you? Because you want to know where they're coming from, because it'll give you a lot of insight into the patient. We have patients that are referred by other patients. We have patients referred by other dentists, and then we have patients that come in through the website, through brochures, through different sources, through online, through offline. And what we want to know is where they came from, because that gives me some information when I go to meet the patient for the first time. Another thing that isn't really relevant for elective dentistry, but is really great if you have your patients or your receptionists ask this, and that is, this is a great question. It could really increase your new patient flow in your practice. And it would be, are there any other family members that you would like to schedule for an appointment today? And I would put that on any of your tracking sheets or intake sheets. Are there any other family members that you would like to schedule for an appointment today? And frequently they'll be like, oh yeah, let me schedule my kids too, if that's what you want to do in practice, have a family practice, of course. And then new patient tracker, we take the name and the appointment date and basically the postal code, just so I know where they're coming from. And we put this, and referral source, put this into a tracking form so I could track the new patients coming into the practice on any given month. And then another thing you could do is send out a package, some form of information package, something really nice, to the new patients before they get into the office. So send it out to them that day or the next day. And that way they have that and they have more motivation to actually show up to their appointment. Because here's a big problem. Patients calling in, scheduling an appointment, and not showing for their consultations. That would not be cool, or isn't cool. So for our practice, the next thing that we do is we schedule them for this new patient consultation if it's elective dentistry. So elective dentistry, they call up, we're interested in porcelain veneers, I'm interested in dental implants, I'm interested in a rehabilitation. Just because of the way our website is set up, we often get those kind of calls. So I'm interested in, say, a full mouth rehabilitation, or I'm interested in porcelain veneers. And frequently they'll say, how much does that cost? And we'll say, well, we can't give you any kind of estimate over the phone, but if you come in for a consultation visit, Dr. Phelan can evaluate your situation, and he can give you a ballpark of what the case fees would be for this case for you. And I'm cool, if they're really interested in fees, to give them a ballpark at this new patient consultation, because I want them to have an idea of how much it'll cost. I won't write out a treatment plan for them because I haven't done the diagnostics, but we'll give them a ballpark because I don't want to waste time going up the pyramid. We don't want to waste time going up the pyramid if we can help it. So giving them a ballpark helps stop the process right at 3A if they're not the type of patient that's motivated, inspired, and financially able to commit to treatment. So we want to stop it right there. And some of these patients are maybe not financially able to commit to treatment right now, but if we've treated them nicely in 3A, they might come back a couple years later. And I've seen that in a couple of cases over the years. So that's cool. Or they're not financially ready. They're able to commit to the treatment, but they're not ready yet. Not in their head, at least. So I had a lady come in a few years ago at the 3A point, new patient consultation. Team did not give her any kind of fee over the phone. She was actually referred by another dentist who was a friend of hers, family friend. And she came in. She clearly needed a full mouth rehab. She had a lot of tooth wear. Or at least that would be the optimal treatment plan. There were probably a couple of other treatment plans as well. And she was like, how much will this cost? And I said, I can't give you a cost. I have to do the diagnostics. I have to do the records. I have to analyze your case. But your case is anywhere from a fairly big partial rehabilitation to a full mouth rehabilitation. And she said, well, how much will that cost? And I said, well, I'll give you a ballpark. These cases can run from $40,000 to $60,000. And she said, ooh, that's a lot of money. She could afford it. She could clearly afford it. But that's a lot of money. And that's true. That is a lot of money. And she said, you know what? Let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And I didn't really think about her ever again. And then a year later, she was in my office for the records appointment. And when she came in for the records appointment, she said, you know what? I'm ready to go now. Fees are good. It's, I just needed some time to get my head around that this could be $50,000 to fix my teeth. And that's cool. No problem. We didn't pressure her. We just said, this is the ballpark range, but what we will need is the records appointment to be able to actually figure out your treatment plan. And here's the other kind of way to stop this early if they're not motivated, inspired, and also able to financially commit, is the next step is the records appointment. The records appointment has a fee associated with it. We always tell the 3A patients they have to go come back for the records. The records appointment costs whatever it is, $500-$600. There's a fee. It's not a fee that's so big that it will inhibit them going forward, but it's big enough that if they're not really motivated, inspired, and financially able to commit to treatment, it's big enough that it'll stop them. And that way they're not wasting their time. I don't want them wasting their time. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want it to be a bad experience. So, might as well just not go ahead with the records if they're not financially able to pay for especially the $500 records. And we tell them the records are typically not covered, although part of it is covered. But, it's elective dentistry again. This is elective dentistry I'm talking about. veneer cases, implant cases, cosmetic cases. So I don't want them to go through all this time getting the records completed and not being able to go to the next step. So as I said, I do give them a ballpark, and we also tell them what the records will cost. So critical mistake number 2 is presenting the treatment plan or fee estimate during an initial consultation before you have completed the diagnostic records. I will not give an itemized fee estimate or treatment plan at the consultation, at this initial consultation. I just think ballpark figure is a good idea. That way they don't come through this without any idea of what the fees are. And I'll tell you another thing. I don't actually give the ballpark figure to everybody. You know, if this patient is a referral from another patient who's had this kind of dentistry, and they've clearly talked, if this patient's coming in for similar treatment, I'm sure they've talked about the fees. I don't tell them the ballpark unless they ask. So I'm not worried about it on patients that have been referred. It's more the patients right off the website that have no idea. We'd like to give them a ballpark. But I don't give them an itemized treatment plan or fee estimate because we have not done the records. And we have not spent enough time with them to give them this. So I think that it's a big mistake to have somebody come in and you just fire out a treatment plan for them without going through comprehensive diagnostic records. And I think that you'll get way less case acceptance if you just follow that system of doing estimates when they come in. Even if it's a veneer case and you know what it's going to be, I still want to do the records because it gives me more time to spend with them. And it gives me the opportunity to create a powerful case acceptance presentation. And that's my system. So what about ballpark fee and when? Well, as I said, I'll do that at 3A. Before we send them up the pyramid, we want to do the ballpark fee. But again, there is a caveat that I don't do that for everybody. I have a pretty good feel for people after doing this for 25 years. So, some people come in, you know that it's not an issue fee-wise. So I don't get into it if they don't ask. But there's some people you have no idea. So in those people, I probably won't assume, and I'll tell them what the ballpark fee is. So just so that we don't, again, waste their time. The other way to get around wasting their time is this case fee or fee for doing the comprehensive diagnostic records. As long as it's $500 or $600 or $700 or $800, if it's going to be a number of hundreds of dollars and you tell them it's likely not all covered by insurance, they're going to think twice if they're not really, again, inspired, motivated, and financially able to commit to treatment. So this is all good stuff because you don't want to waste their time and we don't want to waste our time either. So the other thing on 3 is existing patients that can benefit from comprehensive dentistry or elective dentistry or implant dentistry, kind of unaware patients. And again, they might be coming in for a new patient exam. They might be in for a recall exam. But again, you cannot create a motivated patient, but you can spark motivation. You just can't create it. So strategies to have existing patients or unaware new patients put their hand up and say, I am interested, inspired, and motivated for this kind of dentistry. How can you do that in your practice? And I'll tell you the key is really awesome visual aids. Really awesome visual aids of what can be done in dentistry. And which visual aids are clearly the best for elective dental case presentations. And I'll tell you, I'm going to show you that soon. This is part of the presentation. I will share with you a number of things that I think are excellent visual aids. And what I'll say is, some of these patients, they call up and they want just a cleaning and exam. And maybe in their head, they're thinking about getting a reconstruction or, more comprehensive dentistry, fixing their smile, tooth wear, etc. I've had a number of patients come in as 3B patients, and we discover very quickly that they're interested in this kind of dentistry, more comprehensive dentistry and fixing their smile. We discover that right at the new patient exam. And so we then tell them, you're here for the new patient exam. It's mostly kind of checking your gums, checking your bite, checking your jaw, but it's not a comprehensive exam for the kind of dentistry you're talking about. I'd like to bring you back for the functional analysis records, which is when we do a bite analysis, we take photos of your teeth, we have models of your teeth, we mount them on this machine. We do all of this to figure out a number of different treatment plans for you that you could select then which one is right for you. And I've had a number of patients, I can think of 3 just off the top of my head, just thinking about this. I had one last summer or 2 summers ago. He came in, just new patient exam. He had a fair amount of tooth wear. My hygienist said, you've got a lot of tooth wear. And he said, yeah, I noticed my teeth are getting short. I don't really like the way they look. And so she pulled out my Smile design book. She showed her some veneer cases. And he said, oh, I want to get that done. And he immediately said, I want to book the records. When can we do the records? I want to figure out when we can do this. And, it was going to be a month and a half down the road. The next day he emailed me and he said, Dr. Phelan, can you get me in sooner? I've been thinking about this. I really want to do this. So that's motivated and inspired. He came in not asking for that, but once he found out about it, he became motivated and inspired immediately. And so we expedited his records appointment because he was, again, motivated and inspired, ready to go ahead with treatment. And quite frankly, he could use it. He had a lot of tooth wear, and he's young for a lot of tooth wear. So that is one example. Another example, patient came in referred by his wife, who I did kind of a posterior reconstruction, not a cosmetic, more just functional. And when he was sitting in the chair, he said, can you tell me what we could do to make my whole smile look better? I've got, quite frankly, he had an IPO coming out for one of his companies. And he said, I'm going to be on TV. I want it to look nice. I want my smile to look better. I look kind of bad right now. And with the way my smile looks. And I said, yes, we can do that. You have a lot of tooth wear. You've got missing teeth, broken down teeth. What I really need to do is bring you in for what we call the functional analysis. So again, we took him from the 3B, kind of unaware, or maybe he had it in his mind. He just didn't articulate that when they booked his new patient exam. But we took him up the pyramid and he accepted treatment, and we did a full mouth rehab plus some implants. And so again, moving patients up the pyramid is great, but you want to move the right patients up the pyramid. So you cannot create a motivated patient. You can spark motivation. Sometimes they ask you about it. Sometimes the visual aids available in your practice helps spark the motivation. And so once again, as I said, I believe that visual aids are really powerful for this, especially these 3B patients that are either in your practice already or new patients that are coming in but haven't identified themselves as wanting elective or comprehensive dentistry. So I'll share with you some of the things that we use in our practice. As I alluded to, one of them is our Smile design book, which is really powerful. We show that to patients. A lot of them become inspired and motivated pretty quickly. Now, they're not always ready, so they might be inspired and motivated and they have to mull it over for a little bit. And that's cool too. I don't need or want to push patients up the pyramid quicker than they want to be pushed up the pyramid, in a sense. Because again, it's freeing for us to realize that you cannot create a motivated or inspired patient, because all the case acceptance is basically taken away from us then. It's all on the patient. So, and the only thing that's important for us is identifying the right patients to go through this with. So again, comprehensive diagnostic records is really module 1 of occlusion design, and it's really the functional analysis. So we're going to take and complete the mounted records, the mounted models. We're going to have a digital photo series. We'll have all the comprehensive exam records as well. But what I'm really looking for is the functional analysis, the CR mounted models, and the digital photo series, and really looking at that to treatment plan the case. If the case is also involving dental implants, we send the patient to the oral radiologist that we refer to for a CBVT, cone beam volumetric tomography study. He sends me a radiographic report, plus he converts the CBVT into Simplant for me. We have a Simplant program file that I can import into my Simplant software and plan the implants for the patient as well. So we have a very detailed case presentation for those patients. So then next step on the pyramid is I've gathered the information. We're going to complete risk assessment and treatment planning for this patient. So in 4, we've gathered the information. We might have to wait for the CBVT and radiology report, but once we have that, then we can complete risk assessment and treatment planning. Risk assessment and treatment planning are really modules 2 and 3 from occlusion design from my comprehensive clinical training program. And then we get to case presentation and financial arrangements for the cases. So again, I don't want to go through all of this on patients that are not inspired, ready, and financially able to commit to treatment. Now, occasionally people will slip through the cracks and you'll go through all of this on the wrong patient. But very rarely, for the most part, the way that we've set up the pyramid in my practice, most patients that go through the pyramid are ready, inspired, motivated, and financially able to at least go through with one of the reasonable treatment plans for treatment for that patient. You know, not all the cases have to be full mouth rehabilitation either. There are lots of ways to do a partial rehabilitation on most of these severe tooth wear patients. But one of the options frequently is a full mouth rehabilitation. So there's multiple ways to do this. And I'll share with you at the end when I'm talking about financial arrangements, I'll share with you one of my cases. Again, patient came in, he was in 3B, basically came in for a new patient exam, was one of my neighbors, in fact. And at that exam, he said, you know, can you tell me what you could do to improve my smile? My teeth are getting short, they're yellow. I can't really see them when I'm talking as much. And he basically had a lot of tooth wear and broken down, restored teeth, old restorations. So we did a full mouth rehab on him. But I figured about 3 different ways of treating him that would have been acceptable. And I gave him 3 different financial options or treatment plans. And I'll share those with you at the end of the webinar, because you'll see a full mouth rehabilitation and then 2 different partial rehabilitation options. And I'll share with you the actual treatment planning document or case presentation document that I gave to him for this treatment. And he ended up selecting the full mouth rehabilitation option, which was over $50,000. And it looks fantastic. He looks great. I've completed that a few years ago. But, you know, I would have been totally happy with the smaller treatment plan, which was probably $30,000. You know, there's a range of treating these cases. He didn't need any dental implants, at least. So the case fee was a little less. But case presentation and financial arrangements, again, over the last 25 years, I've developed a predictable system, a 4-step system for case acceptance, for case presentation. And I've also developed a system for giving the actual written treatment plan and then financial arrangements within that written treatment plan. So I'll share with you some of my written treatment plans that we give to the patient, the actual document we give to the patient at the end of the webinar, because I think that you'll find that powerful and helpful. We'll also explain how I can make lab fees kind of irrelevant to you. It's more up to the patient. So we'll share with you what I'm using for allowing you to use labs that are really higher end labs with higher lab fees. And it won't really make any difference to your bottom line. Other than using a bit better lab fee means you'll probably spend less chair time because the case will go smoother and less redos, etc., etc., etc. So basically my simple 4-step system or process is to explain the problems first. And this is really relevant for needs-based dentistry as well. Explain the problem first. Explain the implications of these problems second. explain the solution for the problems third, and usually there's, in some cases, more than one solution, and explain the benefit of the solution last. You need to make sure you explain the benefit of everything that you tell the patient, because they need to understand what the benefit is to them. So again, it's pretty simple: problems, implication, solution, benefit. If you can think those 4 words whenever you're discussing treatment for patients, whether it be a crown that the patient needs or a veneer case, all the way to a full mouth rehabilitation case, you're speaking in a language that I believe will trigger them to understand and help with your case acceptance, which is good because, especially for needs-based dentistry, you want to help these patients understand their issue, their problems and implications, so that they will go ahead with the solution and gain the benefit. So critical mistake number 3, do not present the solution first before you have explained the problem and the patient understands the implication. So do not present the solution first. As dentists, we jump all over the solution really quickly. It's like, oh, your tooth, filling doesn't look good in your tooth, you need a crown. You haven't gone through what the problem really is and the implication of not treating that problem. You've just jumped to, you need a crown. And that's why patients don't accept treatment. They don't understand the problem. They don't understand the implication of the problem and where this can go for them. So this will really help you, especially for crowns. I have a really nice presentation I'm going to share in a minute, like just a real quick little presentation we use for patients that could use crowns. And so what I discovered while I was completing my AACD accreditation when I was really young, dentist in my early 30s, because I was taking so many photographs of cases, and I was taking all these before pictures during the records appointment, my thought was, okay, when the patient comes back and we go over the treatment plan, I'm going to show them their pictures. Because I've taken them anyway. They're slides, so it's not the easiest thing to show. It's much easier today with digital photography and beautiful computer monitors. But back in the day, I had a slide projector with a screen below it, kind of like this odd little setup. And I just click through the slides, and it made all this noise, like ka-ching, ka-ching, as it was going through the slides. But it was very effective. I couldn't believe how effective it was. It basically showed me the power of visual aids with case presentations. Just showing these patients their slides that I took at the records appointment, they saw stuff that they'd never seen before in their mouths. And then what I discovered, the second thing that I discovered was, I'll put a couple slides of a case I completed that's nice after their case photos. And I'd click through those. And these patients would be sitting there in the chair saying, can I get that kind of dentistry? And I'd be saying, yes, we could do that for you. And the most common thing I ever heard was, when can we get started? And those are, a couple of the nicest words you can hear as a dentist during a case presentation is, when can we get started? When can I get started? And this really was a powerful realization and understanding for me as a young dentist. So I use photography to help patients visualize their problems and the solutions we or I can offer. And I need to go through that pyramid so that I could take the photographic series and have them come back and see the case presentation with the photographic series, their pictures, followed by pictures of other case examples of what can be done with dentistry today. So they can visualize then what we've done for other patients could be done for them. And it's very powerful, especially for elective dentistry. So we can have, these visual aids on an iPad. We can have them in a book. So we could have them in that Smile Design book I referred to. This is the book my hygienist showed this patient, and he was, I want to go ahead and book in the records so I could get these veneers. I have a lot of tooth wear. And we've got a lot of different case type examples in this book. Another thing you can do is you could just have pictures framed on the wall and have questions like ask us about porcelain veneers, or ask us about fixing your tooth wear, or just the picture and leave it open. But if you put these up and blow them up and frame them and put them up on the walls of your operatories and your hygiene rooms especially, it's a prompt, it's a trigger to actually get patients to think about this. And some of these patients will have some interest and they'll become inspired, motivated, and they are able to pay for this kind of treatment. And some of them will just be kind of curious and they might stew on it and think about it for a year or two and then become inspired and motivated. But it's good to plant the seed in their minds. And so this month during my occlusion design members webinar, no, it was last month, I actually posted these for the members, high-res JPEG versions of these two images and this third one. And I told the members, I said, print these out as 11 by 14 or 12 by 18 images, frame it and put it in your operatories and have patients asking about this kind of dentistry. Because patients with lower tooth wear, it's so common. They're yellow, they're worn, they're chipped, they're ragged. People want this kind of dentistry. And this was done with veneers. This was actually my neighbor I told you about who came in and asked about this kind of dentistry at his new patient exam. This was his lower part of his treatment. We totally did this non-orthodontically with veneers, not aggressively prepping these teeth. I show the preps during one of my occlusion design presentations for the members. It's very conservative preps, but we were able to line these teeth up. And so having visual aids like this on the walls of your operatory, having these books, having keynote presentations or PowerPoint presentations on iPads or operatory computers, this will spark interest in your patients. And some of them will become motivated, inspired, and go forward with the records appointment and become cases that you will do for your practice. So what I've done to simplify this for myself is I created prepared case presentation templates. I have a cosmetic cases one, I have a full mouth rehabilitation cases one, I have a structurally compromised teeth one, and I have a dental implants one. And we put them on iPads. So this is on my iPad Pro. Sorry, I took this with my iPhone, so the white balance is completely off and it looks like patient has purpley blue gums. But I just took this quickly tonight with my iPhone at the reception area of my practice. So you can have these on the iPad Pro, the big iPad Pro, and it looks fantastic. But basically what I did was I created 4 different templates so that any cases that come into my practice, I can make the case presentation using one of the 4 templates or combining different parts from the different templates. Either way, it expedites me creating the case presentations. And it gives me something with case presentation examples without their cases at the front of the presentation that we can show them on an iPad or an operatory computer. If you don't have operatory computers, the large iPad Pro is an awesome solution because it's 12 inches or 13 inches? It has an incredible screen. It doesn't look blue like this. It's just the iPhone photo. I couldn't find a white balance change or correction in the iPhone photo editing software, and I didn't have time to import it into my desktop to edit it. But it doesn't matter. It's just a picture to show you that you could put these on your iPhone or your iPads. So what I did was I created this template, and there are 4 different keynote presentations, but they're also PowerPoint presentations, and we put them on a USB drive. And the question I would have to you is, do you have powerful and effective examples of treatment options that you can share with your patients? Do you have these books, these keynote presentations, or these PowerPoint presentations, or do you even have these photos that you can print out and frame and put up in your operatory? Because when I was a young dentist, I didn't have these, but I just made these up without the power of digital computing. I just made some of those up and framed them and put them up in my operatories because it sparked a lot of interest in this kind of dentistry. And so you can spark motivation, but you cannot create it. You can spark motivation, but you cannot create it. So sparking motivation is an awesome thing. And again, this webinar will teach you tools for elective dentistry and needs-based dentistry case acceptance. So needs-based dentistry case example, let me share with you one case presentation that could skyrocket the acceptance of treating crowns in your practice and helping some people with fractured teeth that are going to eventually break in half. So you look at my Velocity Elite case presentation USB drive. We have one presentation, which is structurally compromised teeth. So one of the four is structurally compromised teeth. And what we do is my hygienist puts a picture on the computer of the patient's structurally compromised teeth or tooth, easily done with an intraoral camera. You don't need any fancy technology. And then the easiest way to do it is then you grab the iPad and you show the structurally compromised tooth or teeth case presentation. And I have a simple one that we could show. I have a whole bunch of examples on the Keynote or PowerPoint file, but we have a simple one that can be showed with 4 slides, 3 to 4 slides. So we show a similar cracked tooth. So you have the patient's tooth. And what I'll tell you I'm concerned about with this tooth is we have a distal crack and a mesial crack. And my concern is, do these cracks meet under this amalgam? And the amalgam's leaking. So do these cracks meet under the amalgam? Do we have probing depth? Obviously, we want to know that. Is the tooth vital? If the tooth's vital and we don't have probing depth, we have a chance of saving this tooth because this tooth looks to be cracked pretty badly. So the question I'm asking myself is, do these cracks connect? If they connect and we don't have a lot of probing depth and we have a vital tooth, this is at a tooth that's at high risk to fracture in half. And so the problem is the patient has cracks in her tooth or his tooth. The implication is this tooth could break. So that's problem and implication. And to drive this home, I've created these keynotes. So I show, okay, here's somebody with a similar tooth with cracking around it. We take out the filling. We take out some of the decay. We examine the cracking and we discover that the crack goes from the mesial to the distal palatal. So the crack connects along the floor of the preparation of the filling. So this tooth is at risk to break. This tooth is at risk to break. And I'll tell them this, but again, visual aids are powerful. I'll actually pull out the most powerful visual aid I have for this tooth is at risk for breaking, and that is this broken tooth. So I tell them, I'm sorry, but your tooth looks like it could break. And that's the implication. So let's look at the actual presentation, how we could show it on a computer or on an iPad. Here's your tooth. You've got a crack from one end to the other, potentially anyway. We won't know until we take out the old filling, but I'll tell you most of the time when you see this, it's connected. If it's not connected, it's going to be connected soon. So here's the problem. Here's somebody with a similar situation, multiple cracks. We take out the old filling. There's decay there. We take out the decay. What we discover is a crack that runs from the one end of the tooth to the other. That tooth now, because of these cracks, is at risk to break. And your tooth is at risk to break. Your tooth could break like this. And this tooth is broken. There's a crack that runs from one end to the other, and it's actually broken through down the root. And if you look, we had to take the tooth out. The tooth broke in half. And then for added effect, we have this picture. So I don't want your tooth to end up on the tabletop. I want your tooth to stay in your mouth. It does not appear to be cracked all the way down your root. We're not feeling any probing depth that's deep around the crack. We have an opportunity now to save your tooth. And so that's kind of my simple case presentation for cracked teeth. Show your cracked tooth with an intraoral camera photo. show this case with a cracked tooth around an amalgam, show underneath the filling, show how the crack connects, which is pretty common. You can see the crack here and the crack here. I didn't know whether this crack would connect with this crack, or this crack would connect with this crack, or this one would connect with this one. You don't know till you take out the old filling and the decay, but I discovered this crack connected with this crack. So once I know the cracks connect, I can let her know your tooth is at risk for breaking in half and needing to be extracted. And that, my friends, is a seriously effective case presentation for fractured teeth. If you can imagine being able to use this simple little case presentation, these 3 slides really, plus a picture of your patient's tooth, you can basically increase the amount of teeth that you save by, I would say, easily $6,000 a month. So depending on your fees, even if you're $1,000 per crown per unit, that's 6 crowns a month. So that's what? 1 crown every, third of a week in practice that gets saved because of that case presentation. Because people looking at just their cracked tooth with a small filling, they don't know. They don't understand the problem, and they even if they understand the problem, they don't totally get the implication. But seeing it visually, like I just showed you, is so powerful that you can help your patient by saving some of these teeth. Because we've all seen cases where you tell the patient about these cracks, they don't do anything, and they come back a year later and the tooth is split in half and has to come out. Every practice has these. So you want to be proactive and save these cracked teeth, especially second molars. So that is the case presentation for needs-based dentistry that I wanted to share with you, this series of slides, which I believe would add 6 crowns a month to your practice, anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 a month, depending on your case fees, and help patients with cracked teeth like this don't end up on the tabletop like this. So this is a good thing for the patients, and it's a good thing for us as dentists because, crown and bridge is fun. I like crown and bridge better than fillings. It's fun, it's productive, but it's also helpful. It's helping the patient prevent themselves from losing the tooth because these teeth crack. And depending on bite force, I tell them, you need to be careful. This could break tomorrow and break in half. We don't know when it's going to break in half. We don't know how much you're clenching, grinding. We don't know your bite force. Well, you have an idea if you check their masseter muscle size. But this tooth could break in half. It's at risk to breaking in half immediately. And that gets patients motivated and inspired to have that kind of dentistry completed, which is in their best interests. So that's my little case presentation for needs-based dentistry. I think that that's really powerful. It's something my Velocity members have been encouraged to use. And I truly believe you could save 6 teeth a month with crowns. And depending on the size of your practice, you could maybe save 6 teeth a week with crowns with that kind of case presentation that your hygienists are using. So let's look at elective dentistry case example. I use my other case presentation templates for elective dentistry. And with elective dentistry, I put my patients' photos at the beginning of the case presentation and share it with them on a computer. You could do it on an iPad. I'd recommend the iPad Pro because it's bigger, but I like to do it on a computer. I do it in my consultation room. But you could do it in an operatory on a computer. You could do it on an iPad. So for this case presentation, I'm going to use my cosmetic cases keynotes, so 1 or 2 cases from that, my rehabilitation cases keynote, and my dental implant cases keynote, because this case is relevant to all 3 areas. And so we had this patient, again, go through the pyramid. He came back after treatment planning and risk assessment, and obviously comprehensive diagnostic records. And this is my consultation area. I have two computers especially for implant cases, because we put the implant records on one, we put the case presentation on the other computer. And we always use my my Smile Design book as well. It's great for treatment planning, Smile Design. And so, as I said, we have the digital photo series we take at the records appointment. I teach this in the occlusion design program. And again, the power of this is extremely powerful. You have no idea until you do it, showing the patients their photos. And then the next key, the next powerful key, is to show the patients photos of similar cases. So for this case example, I'm going to share with you this patient, Steve, who has one of the cases that is one of my favorite cases from the last 5 years. So he came in with tooth wear, and he wasn't happy with his previous bridge work, didn't like the way his teeth looked, would like to replace the missing back teeth as well, he said. But his big concern was he didn't really think the bridges that he had completed were really done right, and he just wanted everything to look better. So the problem was the bridge fractured pretty quickly, but it didn't fracture because of the bridge. It fractured because of the occlusion, because the patient is in a group function posterior occlusion on the right side of his mouth. And the porcelain just got in the way of the group function, and it shear fractured. So what we need to do for this particular patient is reestablish the guidance with whatever treatment plan we come up with. The left side was actually functioning pretty decent. He still didn't like the left side bridge because they left the margin supragingival, or they had recession shortly after seating the bridge. So he said he saw this line pretty quickly, and the marginal fit isn't very good. You can kind of see from this photo. And these bridges are only a couple years old. But occlusion design is decent on the left side, not so good on the right side. So we have to improve part of his occlusion with this treatment plan. And he didn't like the way his lower incisors were kind of worn and canted. He obviously didn't like the dark filling on the central incisor. And he said, I don't like the stain and chipping I get on my front teeth. And I find I get the stain quite a bit just because of the roughness of his enamel. Again, didn't like those bridges. And had a problem with the photo of the upper arch. That's just the way it was. And didn't like, would say or said he'd consider replacing the missing back teeth. So we went through the case photos. So I went through this series of photos. I showed him what the problem was with his occlusion. He knows the implication because he's already broken previous dentistry because of the occlusal problem. And so the solution becomes he would like cosmetic dentistry plus rehab dentistry as part of the solution. So I showed him some cosmetic cases and some rehab cases and then some implant treatment planning cases. So if you look here, here's one of the cosmetic cases from my Velocity keynote. And this is a nice case because it shows some nice cosmetic dentistry, some nice veneers. And I like this one because it shows the preparation for veneers. So if you look here, here's the patient before and after. This is the after image of the veneers, lateral view of the veneers after. We only did 4 veneers in this case. Before and after, we did Invisalign for this patient to line up the lower incisors. So I did discuss with Steve. I said, would you be interested in some form of orthodontics? It might develop your occlusion better to the point where you need less restorations. And I showed him this. Look at how much better the alignment of the teeth is after this. And we could maybe get your cuspids in the right place, so I only need to treat the upper cuspid with a restoration. And he said, I don't really want any form of orthodontics. I'm not going to wear those retainers, the Invisalign retainers. And I definitely do not want braces. But it's good to show them that this is an option. Orthodontics is an option. It'll line everything up better to actually do your treatment that you're looking for. He said no, so what that often requires is more dentistry or a compromised treatment. Those are the two options. We also showed this case, close-up of the veneers, and then I showed the preparations for veneers, some different views. The space was opened up between the centrals because he had bonding there previously. So he had a previous diastema. We show the prep for the veneers. This is the same case. And then I showed the 10-year post-ops. So these are 10-year post-op photos. Again, all of these images are on my Velocity case presentation for cosmetic cases. And it's easy for me to just kind of drop these in next to the patient's photos. So I showed these images. And then I used the Smile Design book to look at different smile designs and ask him what he liked so that we could figure out the smile design he would like for his diagnostic wax-up. But I wanted to show him how realistic these veneers could look, natural, next to the natural dentition, and how they look at 10 years post-treatment. So that was cool. And then we showed him some lower veneers because he didn't want to do ortho. So we're going to end up having to do lower veneers. And I showed him my neighbor's case with the before and after lower veneers that we lined up with, strategic preparations. I call it strategic preparation design to be able to achieve this. And, I showed him if your wear were to continue, you could one day end up like this with significant tooth wear, which then requires crowns. So this was before and after for crowns. And then we went through the rehab case presentation. So usually I'll show a couple of cases. And this really is a powerful case presentation then for this patient. So I'll show a rehab case, and typically I'll show case one. In this case, again, this patient's much more severely, with much more severe tooth wear and erosion than the case that I'm presenting. But what I wanted to show him is this patient ended up with an end-to-end occlusion on his cuspids, just like yours. And so we had to create better overbite and overjet to restore him to proper cuspid guidance, which is what we're going to have to do for the case that I'm just showing you at the beginning here, because we need to reestablish cuspid guidance on the right side. So this is a more significant tooth wear case, but what I want to show here is that what we're going to do is we're going to take your records. You've already had the records. We're going to do the diagnostic wax up, and we're going to reestablish the tooth shape, size, and occlusion and outline form of the teeth in wax. And then we use that to create all the guides that I'll use to prepare your teeth and create your temporary restorations. So we use this to prepare your teeth. Sometimes we do some gum alterations like this. And then we use this to make your temporary restorations, which are made like this. And then you could have temporary restorations like this particular patient, which have been used to reestablish the eye tooth guidance. And this case, it's anterior and eye tooth guidance. But what I wanted to point out to my patient Steve is your eye teeth are not overlapping properly and they don't get the proper bite alignment. And so this is a similar case in the eye tooth position. And so we reestablished that with the new restorations on the upper and lower eye tooth. And in his case, we had to open the vertical to be able to do that. And in this case, obviously, we opened the vertical to be able to do that. So this shows all this, and this is important for informed consent. And then we showed the porcelain restorations. This case is a more advanced case than the case that I'm doing the case presentation for. So this case is a crown case. These are zirconia crowns. Steve's case was going to be largely porcelain veneers, except for previously restored teeth. So this is again before and after, lengthening the teeth, fixing the bite, that's the big thing here, and lengthening the teeth, of course, and then restoring all the tooth wear. So this is a good little keynote to put in when you're talking about changing the bite, and it shows the diagnostic wax up, creating the provisionals, the need for the diagnostic wax up, the need for testing this with the provisionals. And then the last thing that I showed was dental implant cases. And I'm just showing him how we do dental implants. And in this particular case, I didn't show this one. I showed the guided surgery case presentation. I just thought you guys would like to see this one. So it's basically a tooth fracture. We take out the tooth, decided not to do an immediate implant in this case because of the thin buccal plate and the way the fracture was subgingivally and into the root. So we did a conservative approach with bone grafting and a flipper. Let that heal for 3 to 4 months. Had a CBVT completed. This is during the healing. And then placed the implant through a tissue punch. Through a little punch in the gums. And then made a provisional restoration on the implant. After we tested the stability of the implant, of course. And then we make a custom impression transfer and complete the case with a zirconia crown plus a custom zirconia post. Or abutment. And then the finished case with really good tissue contours with our conservative approach. Now for Steve's case, I showed guided implant surgery. That was just one of the cases from my dental implant case keynote. So I thought I'd share that just quickly. Guided implant surgery, I showed his implant plan, and he happened to have good bone for all 4 implants that we planned to place. We were going to replace the upper, if he wanted to, we'd replace the upper pontics with implants. We could also make new bridges, but I said, I gave him both options. I said I could replace these with implants as opposed to pontics, and I think it's better long term. And then we could place 2 lower implants, and he had plenty of bone for all of those, and his case could be done with a punch, so I showed him a punch case. And so, we have the surgical guide made from the plan in Simplant. We put this guide in your mouth, and I drill through the guide with a tissue punch and place your implant directly through a punched tissue area. In this case, these are SP wide neck or wide platform type of implants with a large healing abutment. In his case, I did bone level implants. So this was an older case. And in some cases, I still use the SP Straumann implants for molars. So what I wanted to show him with this slide is this is immediately post-implant surgery. I did a little punch. The patient had plenty of bone. So we did a little punch in the middle of the ridge based on the surgical guide, which we placed. And I drilled everything through the surgical guide. There's no stitches. There's no flap. This is basically simple, straightforward surgery with detailed planning. And then we let this heal. This is 2 weeks post-operative healing. And the patients find these cases have very little post-operative discomfort or issues. And then I showed them another case just for fun. This is a case, again, these are done through punches. You can see the little punches. This is how we do this. And then we put the healing abutments on top. Now, this case is interesting to share with all of you. I basically had this patient. She came in with a 3-unit bridge. The front abutment was fractured. So we took out the front abutment and we socket grafted the case. The back abutment had enough bone, or the back where the pontic was, there was enough bone, but you can see it was never socket grafted. You can see the defect on the buccal plate from the lack of soft tissue socket grafting at the time of extraction. Now, I didn't extract the first molar or even place the initial bridge. I saw the patient. She came in. It was a patient's mother with the fractured bridge. So I told her I didn't really recommend making a 4-unit bridge. I'd recommend 2 implants and 2 single tooth crowns because the front abutment's also endo-treated and probably structurally compromised. So, you keep breaking abutments, you're going to end up with even more implants. So I suggested the best option is we take out the tooth, we graft the socket, we let it heal, and then we see if we can place 2 implants. And fortunately, the Simplant plan showed there was enough bone for the implant even in the area where there's a depression on the buccal plate. So there was enough bone even with this depression, although it's not as nice. So you can see here, the crown is going to be much bigger. But, being a molar, it's not as big a deal. But here's the one that I did the grafting on. This is immediately post inserting these crowns. you can see the buccal contour is so much better if you graft the extraction socket. And these were placed with screw-retained posterior implant crowns. So again, extraction site bone grafting. I have this in the Velocity dental implant keynote as well, because I think that it's important to be able to explain to patients extraction site grafting is really powerful and really a great strategy to prevent large defects. So anyway, we went through that. I showed maybe 2 different cases plus the Simplant guided surgery system in the case presentation, and he accepted treatment. We went through and used my Smile Design book to figure out his smile design that he'd like, because it has a lot of before and after pictures of different smile designs. He selected the smile design he would like. We completed his treatment. And so here are the final results for Steve. I actually presented a webinar with this case, the clinical treatment of this case, earlier in the year. And so if you look, here's his before and after treatment. We have corrected the occlusion. I didn't treat the lower bicuspids, and I didn't treat the posterior molars on the left side. But we treated the entire upper arch. We did 6 veneers on the lower arch and 2 posterior implant crowns with guided surgery. And they're longer because he had been missing those teeth for many, many years, and obviously they were extracted without socket grafting. They're longer, but they had plenty of bone above the inferior alveolar nerve to place the implants. So we just went with the longer. We didn't try and put pink porcelain or anything. It wasn't really relevant. It doesn't show. But this is one of my favorite cases aesthetically, looking at the aesthetic results. I love the aesthetic results for this case. And this is mostly layered feldspathic porcelain in the anterior, and then crown and bridge in the posterior. Well, not crown and bridge, crowns and implant crowns in the posterior. We replaced the bridges with implants. So this is an implant, this is an implant. These are single crowns where the previous abutments were. These are veneers, although this veneer wraps all the way around because the patient had a massive filling to start with. And we repositioned the cuspids on the right side, so we have better cuspid guidance, or we have cuspid guidance instead of group function. I replaced one of the old amalgams, but left the bicuspids as is. Did some bleaching, but that's about it. And then screw-retained implant crowns on the bottom. And here's 2 years post-treatment. Lateral view. This is the implant crown. This is a crown on a heavily structurally compromised tooth with a root canal. And then these are feldspathic veneers, except this one's more, you could classify this one maybe as more like a crown. And that would be fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that. And this dentistry, this lab work, beautiful lab work, was created by Harold Heindel from Aesthetic Dental Creations. He's my ceramist I use for all my veneer cases and for the majority of my rehab cases in practice. And I'll tell you that I think that sales is a transfer of passion and enthusiasm. But the system that I've shared with you tonight, using visual aids, being able to show your patient's photos at the beginning, followed by relevant case photos after your patient's photos, has a huge impact on case acceptance. The other thing that has a huge impact on case acceptance is presenting to the right patients. So patients that are motivated, inspired, and able to financially commit to treatment. And the majority of that could be weeded out with the case acceptance pyramid by, again, giving them a ballpark if you're not sure fee estimate, and having them pay a moderate fee for the diagnostic records. Because the patients that are not really serious will not want to pay even a moderate fee for the diagnostic records, which is good because you don't want to waste their time or your time. So what I want to also share with you tonight are my actual case presentation treatment plans, the actual written treatment plan that I give to the patients. I'll share with you one patient that had 3 different options. But before I do that, again, I want to ask you, do you have powerful and effective examples of treatment options you can share with your patients in your practice. And I know most of us don't, because most of us, even my new occlusion design members, people who are really interested in this kind of dentistry, when they're a new member, most of them are not taking a full photo series of their cases and not taking before and after photos of all their cases. So most of us in practice don't have all these visual aids. We don't have keynotes already prepared and ready to go. You know, cosmetic case keynotes, dental implant keynotes, full mouth rehabilitation keynotes, and even those structurally compromised teeth keynotes for needs-based dentistry that I showed you a few minutes ago. And I'm sure as I was showing this tonight, some of you were asking, how can I have these case presentations for my practice to help my patients? And if you've asked yourself this, then, you know, I'm going to introduce you to my Velocity Elite program, And I've created this Velocity Elite program for those of you, if you're interested in this kind of dentistry and you want to be able to have a system in your practice that will easily identify motivated and inspired patients, spark interest in potentially motivated and inspired patients, and then be able to have an awesome case presentation for the people who go through the diagnostic records with you. You know, if you're interested in this, my Velocity Elite program is specifically for you. And it's really a turnkey done-for-you case acceptance system. And it works in practice. I had this email, it was earlier in the year, from a dentist from Australia, and I just copy and pasted it here because it was so cool to see. And he sent me this email. He said, I thought I would attach a few photos, I won't show you the photos, of my first full upper arch reconstruction. The patient originally came in wanting veneers on her 2 front teeth. So she did come in motivated and interested enough to, let's go forward with records. Let's figure out some treatment planning options. I told her I would take some photos and records, obviously, and then let her tell me what she didn't like. So he showed her photos. The one bridge was poor fitting. Remainder of the teeth were heavily restored with amalgam and composite restorations, which were leaking. And here's the cool thing. I did up a PowerPoint presentation. So these are PowerPoint or Keynote, with her photos at the beginning, which is exactly what I recommend, and one of your cases to give her an idea of what could be achieved. And she then opted for a full upper arch reconstruction, which was a good treatment plan for her, as opposed to just wanting veneers on her 2 front teeth. So she went from kind of motivated, inspired, but not really aware of what could be done and what her teeth really looked like and functioned like, to seeing a PowerPoint presentation of her own mouth and then photos, a case presentation of what could be achieved. And she went from 2 veneers to a full arch reconstruction. So he did the reconstruction, made a splint to wear nocturnally. Next year, she plans to look at the lower arch once her implant is placed. So it's potentially a full mouth reconstruction from a 2 veneer case because she got motivated, inspired, and realized what could be done for her. So again, he ends by, thanks again for all your efforts in putting together such a great teaching program and giving me the confidence to do these more challenging cases. And that's basically what I've created this for, why I've created this. This email I received really sums up my whole existence for putting this together. And it's basically, again, a turnkey case acceptance system. We're going to send you my Velocity keynote presentations, my USB drive, and we're also going to send you my Smile Design photo book. And oh, Andrew's here. Oh, I didn't know Andrew was here. Yeah, we'll unmute Andrew if he'd like to in a couple minutes. Let me just explain what's included in the program. Then, if Andrew's still around, if he has to go though, let me know and we'll unmute him now. But if he could stick around for a couple minutes, I'll explain what's included in the program. So we have the keynote presentations on the USB drive. We have my Smile Design photo book. And tonight, I'm adding 2 new books that I've created. My Full Mouth Rehabilitation book and my Stunning Smiles Are Our Business book, which I just created last week. And the Stunning Smiles Are Our Business book is actually Steve's case, which I shared with you tonight. The before and after pictures and some case photos or case treatment photos of Steve's case. So you're going to receive actually 2 of these Smile Design books. The Full Mouth Rehabilitation book, the Stunning Smiles Are Our Business book, and most importantly, I think, the keynote presentations. So you look at the Stunning Smiles book, has some unbelievable cases, has actually the other case I shared with you tonight, the Full Mouth Rehabilitation case that I shared after Steve's case. The Full Mouth Rehabilitation book has a full mouth rehabilitation. It's actually really a 3/4 partial rehabilitation, but it shows, the need again for the diagnostic records, the mounted study models, the diagnostic wax up. Steve's case shows overjet and overbite, just kind of where we're going with the before case, the wax up, and then the actual treatment and testing it with the provisionals. And also, some beautiful images of his actual case, which is one of my favorite cases. And so you'll also, as I've shown, receive this Keynote USB drive with PowerPoint and Keynote files. And it's basically 4 different case presentations. And these are just some of the slides. It's really beautiful case presentations. I've been taking photos since the 90s, obviously, with my AACD accreditation. You'll also receive access to our Velocity members site with the Velocity members seminar, which was a 2-day seminar I presented. Day 1 was really about creating online domination and online marketing of your dental practice. Day 2 was really all about case acceptance and how to use the photo book, the keynotes, and verbal skills associated with using those. We also have a download section with a number of different downloads that will help you with your practice. Most relevantly, the templates for the case presentations with different types of cases that I actually use. The templates I use for the written case presentation that I give to patients when we present cases. It's just a simple template. I just change the fees, change a couple lines and words about what the actual treatment is. And it makes it, again, expedited for me to actually do case presentations and to present the fees for cases. So it's just really easy. I've tried to make all of this as simple as possible for me in my practice. And then once I saw that this works really, really well, I decided to make this into a program for all of you. So here's the other thing. Velocity Elite has been designed to also be a clinical training program because I decided if I'm going to give all of this powerful case acceptance information and tools and systems, I want the members to be able to deliver the treatment. So I've made it that Velocity Elite is bundled with Occlusion Design. You either have to be an existing Occlusion Design member to join Velocity Elite, or your Velocity Elite membership includes an Occlusion Design membership, which is my flagship clinical training program. If you're not sure what is included with an Occlusion Design membership, if you go to the bottom of the page, you can click on Occlusion Design membership information, and it explains my Occlusion Design membership. If you've been with me for any length of time, you've probably joined a webinar and heard about Occlusion Design. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time discussing Occlusion Design tonight. I'll tell you it's my flagship clinical training and coaching program. It's set up as an online curriculum to teach you how to manage these kinds of cases and teach you exact clinical strategies for treating these cases. And it includes a monthly coaching webinar where you could send in your case photos of cases you have questions about, and we can put them into the monthly webinar, and we can then discuss your case during the webinar. It's really quite powerful. Last month, we had 7 different cases we looked at from members from all over the world. I had a member from Australia join in, and we had a lady from Mongolia. We had patients from North America. We had somebody join on her iPhone and ask questions. It was pretty cool. It's pretty powerful having these monthly coaching webinars. So, now you basically have 3 choices. You can do nothing. You could do all of this for yourself. You could put all of this together yourself. These case presentations, these photo books, these pictures for the walls. Or you could choose to work alongside me and join Velocity Elite and also Occlusion Design. And so this is all together as one package if you are not already an Occlusion Design member. If you're an Occlusion Design member, we've discounted the Occlusion Design membership fee from the Velocity Elite membership fee, if that makes sense to you. It's basically, if you're already an Occlusion Design member, you don't have to pay for Occlusion Design again. So active member, that is. So basically, the fees for this, the investment is one payment of $59.94 or 4 monthly payments of $15.97. And again, this is $6,000 roughly. If you use my little case presentation for structurally compromised teeth, I think this investment will pay for itself quickly. And it really is an investment. It's an investment in yourself, your patients, and your practice. And if you use this little 3 slides, I believe that you'll pay for this in probably 1 to 2 months easily. 6 crowns should pay for your membership. And receiving case acceptance for 6 crowns for teeth that look like this that really do need our help should be a piece of cake with these 3 slides only. That's all you really need. And so if you're watching this and you're already an active Occlusion Design member, your fee will be, or your investment, however you want to call it, will be 1 payment of $29.97 or 4 monthly payments of $8.47. So it's basically half price because you've already invested in Occlusion Design. And so there's been a link added to the side of this page for you to join us. There's been a link added to the side of this page. So it's just basically click here to join Velocity Elite. If you click on that, it will take you to this page, which is my basically my information page to tell you about Velocity Elite. And if you're not an active Occlusion Design member, when you join Velocity Elite, for the investment of $59.94, we're going to give you a clinical bonus package of DVD sets, which is basically my last Occlusion Design promotion DVD set package. So you're going to receive my Functional Occlusion Online DVD set, which is a 9-disc DVD set of a 2-day occlusion seminar with a detailed binder. You'll also receive my Equilibration DVD set, my Predictable Bite Records DVD set, my Mounting and Evaluating Study Models DVD set, which I'll tell you I give to all my assistants to learn how to mount study models on the articulator, and they all learn how to do this just watching this one DVD set. And you'll receive my Changing the Vertical Dimension DVD set. So, this is a very good, in my opinion, package. So, Jennifer, before I show my webcam, if you'd like to unmute Andrew, if he's here, I'd love to hear from him. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I loved your email, by the way. I sent you an email back telling you that. So tell me about your experience with our program.
So I'm actually a recent graduate. I graduated in
Oh,
May.
Holy
So I've been
crap.
a member a little bit before that, very new. But I
Wow.
knew even in school that I was very interested in this stuff.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
I had a faculty member actually introduce me to the program.
Really?
Um,
That's kind of cool.
our inclusion professor, yeah. So
Really?
yeah, it was really interesting. So I, of course, joined, and for me, being a student was a little bit difficult at first, but it is
For sure.
well worth every penny.
Nice.
Like you
Thank
said,
you.
even just since I've been practicing, I've used that PowerPoint for the compromised teeth,
Uh-huh.
and I
Uh-huh.
think I've definitely probably paid for the whole entire membership
Just with that. Yeah.
just with that.
It's powerful. It's really powerful. I tell everybody they should be using that every day, and their hygienist should be using that.
Yeah, I let my hygienist use it as well, and it's more than more than helpful. That
Perfect.
honestly does pay for the entire course.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that. I actually, I totally think so, and it helps you save some teeth. You know, that's the big thing. Patients, they see a filling. You tell them there's a crack. They don't totally get it, you know. But seeing that broken tooth on the tabletop, that helps drive home the implication of what could happen for their tooth. So I think it is powerful.
Yeah, the photos are very important. And as far as the program, all of
Hmm.
it is just the bonuses itself are worth uh, every penny of it. The
Oh,
implementing
thank you.
photography stuff is awesome. Um, it's all great. It's the most organized program I've seen.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. That's awesome that you're a new grad and you're able to implement this already. I'll tell you, I wish I had this when I first finished dental school. It would have just been, you know, it would have taken 20 or well, not 20, but 10 years off of the learning curve, you know.
Yeah, it's really helped a lot,
Yeah.
especially even the marketing stuff. It's all very very
Good,
helpful.
good, good. You're using some of the marketing ideas?
I am. I'm working for a
Perfect.
group right now, so I not all of it, but the stuff that I can.
Yes, yes. It's harder when you're not in your own practice, but you could still use some of it to create your own brand within that practice, you know? Hmm. Hmm. Which is really cool because then people will be calling that practice asking for you, you know? Because it's easy to have a Facebook page and put your stuff up online in a Facebook page, you know? It's pretty
It
much
is.
free. It's just time.
Even
Hmm.
the blog stuff you talk about is really helpful too. I'm looking at starting
Awesome.
that just to kind of get things going. So,
Yes, yes. I think you'll find that really powerful. And YouTube videos, really powerful too. YouTube videos can be really powerful. Hmm. Okay, well, I'm just gonna switch now, Andrew. I want to show everybody the photo books actually, if that's
oh,
cool. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming online and keep in touch. Make sure you email me with some of your successful cases. I'd love to see.
of course, and thank you for taking the time to put all this together. This is
Oh, you're
very
welcome.
very helpful.
It's been years in the making, I have to say. But, you know, I'm really happy with the way it's all come together over the last few years. So thanks so much. And I'm really happy being a new grad. You've taken initiative and you're doing this. That's outstanding, really. It's completely outstanding. So,
Well, thank you again.
oh, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm back. We got a little mixed up there. I thought it was Andrew from Australia who wrote the email that I read, but it was a different Andrew, which is cool because I hadn't connected with that Andrew before. And for me to hear from a new grad that's come and gone through this program and is using my case presentation keynotes, like I mentioned tonight, you know, that's really cool. The fact that he's using this compromised teeth keynote and getting great success and telling me that he's actually paid for the whole program because of this, you know, that's really cool. I'm really happy about that. So what you'll receive is, again, you will receive this keynote. You basically open it up and it has the USB drive with the keynote and PowerPoint files. So you'll receive this USB drive that you can import the files into your computer. Again, these are for internal marketing or case presentation within your practice. I don't want you taking these pictures and using them on your website or anything, because the permissions that I have are to allow them to be used internally. Only I can use them on external marketing. But that's all you need. Again, you show this keynote to patients every day with cracked teeth. You more than pay for this course in probably 1 to 2 months. Now, the other thing that you're going to receive actually 2 copies of my Smile Design book with this particular promotion. So this is my Smile Design book. I'm not sure if you can totally see this really well, but probably. And if you look at a couple of the images, we have a lot of different smile design photos in this book. And I use this during my consultations. I just have patients kind of scroll through this and look at the different smile designs. And there's a lot of different types of smile designs in here that it helps the patients identify what they would like. So it helps me present different smile designs and help the patients identify what they would like. So we use this in the actual final consultation for smile design. We also use this in the initial consultation to show what can be done. So, and the thing is, I tell my members, I say, just forward these images to your, you could forward photographs of these images to your ceramist for your wax-ups as well. But ultimately what I tell them is you could also use Harold Heindel as your ceramist. That's the best option. And then you look at the book. We actually have that case that I showed, the veneer case. So we have the step-by-step photos of that case. And then some close-up images of that case. And there's a bunch of other cases in this book. So this book is, and the lower veneer cases too. Because I think lower veneers are an area that's really underutilized and undertreated, which so many patients could use treatment for that. So that's kind of a lot of the Smile Design book. And then I have these new books that I just created. And the newest one, which I haven't even shown anybody yet, is this Stunning Smiles Are Our Business book. And this book is the case that I showed you tonight that we did the case presentation for. So here it is here. That's the beginning of it. Stunning Smiles Are Our Business. When it comes to your smile, we do things differently here, and kind of go through your philosophy of doing the comprehensive records before you give them the treatment plan. Kind of makes sense, I think. And so it has a number of images of the case. And then what I've done is I've tried to make it kind of follow the treatment planning process. And the diagnostic wax up. So you show the diagnostic wax up, which is critically important. And then shows tooth preparations for veneers. These are the lower preps and the upper preps of this particular case. So the actual photos of the preps of the veneers, and then provisionals. These are the provisionals of that case. So you could explain that as well. And then, this case, overjet and overbite of the cuspids was really important to reestablish the guidance. So I show that slide. And then the actual ceramic work for the case. So we show those pictures. And then the actual before and after of the case. And then just other before and after images, side views, other side view. Oh, and here's another key. You should really be showing these images during your case presentation to your patients. Make sure you show these. A lot of people aren't used to seeing themselves from their smile from the side view. So, that helps them realize that maybe they need more than 2 teeth treated. And you can see this margin. So showing the side views, I learned that really early with the AACD accreditation, just seeing the look on patients' faces when they saw the side views of their teeth. And then before and after images, open and an occlusion. And then a nice image of the close-up of the upper veneers. And a nice image of the arch form, just because of the change in the arch form. So this is a great book. I think that this is another great addition to your collection. Oh, the other thing I spoke about tonight are these JPEG images. You could blow these up bigger than this even, frame them and put them on the walls of your operatory. It's the latest thing that I've come up with. For the Velocity members, I'm going to add a few more of these, some upper smile photos that we're going to send out. So a few other JPEG images that you can print and put on the walls of your office. And then the last book is this full mouth rehabilitation book. This is a really cool book as well. This is one of my favorite full mouth rehabilitation cases. It's case 1 from my opening the vertical dimension or altering the vertical dimension webinar. And it shows a case where we're basically opening the vertical dimension to the point of initial contact, exactly to the point of initial contact of the mounted models in CR. And again, mounted models in CR and the diagnostic wax up. You could discuss the need for mounting the models to evaluate the occlusion. And then the trial restorations down here, mimicking the wax up. Lots of things you could discuss even with that image. And then again, just the concept, build the occlusion to the point of initial contact, and some images. These are actual slides from this case's presentation on altering the vertical dimension. This is a good picture. This is the before, the preps, so very conservative preps, and then the actual veneers for this case, the lower arch of this case. And then another relevant image is, well, this is just wax up, temporaries before and after. Very cool as well. Again, there's a lot of people that could benefit from lower incisor dentistry and lower incisor veneers. And I think veneers are the best restoration for most worn, chipped, and mangled lower incisors. And then posterior overlays to open the vertical. So some images of that you can help, again, explain to patients the treatment of this. And then just some images of the case. So this photo book will be sent to you. This photo book will be sent to you. We're also sending you 2 copies of this Smile Design book. We're going to email you these. They're actually on the Occlusion Design site now already under the September 2016 members coaching webinar. So you could just print them out, download them and print them out and use them. And then we're also going to send the Keynote USB drive. So you're going to get all of this. So if you're an Occlusion Design member, existing Occlusion Design member, you'll pay the lower fee and you'll be sent all of this. If you're paying the higher fee, which means you're not an existing Occlusion Design member, you're also going to get our clinical bonus package, which includes the Functional Occlusion Online DVD set. This is a 9-disc DVD set, 2-day comprehensive update of my occlusion training on DVD. With this, we're sending you the actual manual. So here's the manual. My DVD company that I use prints this out and sends it to you. It's sent from the United States. I use an American company for this. So it's really beautifully printed on great paper with many of the slides from the presentation, actually. And, you know, slides that show a lot of the different concepts with the functional occlusion seminar. Like, really good manual, I have to say. I was really pleased when they sent me the initial copy of this, and just a lot of great slides. So this is a really good manual, big manual that you'll receive to go ahead or go along with this Functional Occlusion Online DVD set. This actually sells for $1,500 on my website, or $1,600, something in that range. On my website, every week we have people who buy this, who are not Occlusion Design members, obviously, or not Velocity Elite members. Velocity Elite is currently closed. We've just opened it tonight for this short promotion. It's probably not going to be open again for a while. It's I don't want to offer this to too many people because it is, these are my case presentations. I just want to have a small group being able to use this, basically. That's why this is not open all the time. We offer it roughly once to twice a year. So this is a short window where it's going to be open. And then you'll receive my occlusion DVDs. These are different than these. They complement one another because this is like a lecture. These are actual clinical treatments. So this is video of me mounting the case and trimming the bite records and doing a model analysis. This is filmed treatment. This is a lecture, case presentation and lecture. So they're different. They complement one another. This is theory and how to do things. This is me doing treatment, like trimming the bite records, mounting on the articulator. Again, this one, my assistants learn how to mount cases just from this. It's really relevant. And then we've got the altering the vertical dimension presentation. We have predictable bite records, so lots of different bite record systems and techniques. And then this one's one of my favorites. It's equilibration, and it's actual video of my assistant and I from outside operatory view right into the actual microscope view of what I'm doing for an equilibration for a patient with a lot of muscle issues and, a not ideal occlusion. I wouldn't say you have to equilibrate everybody, but there are a number of patients that equilibration would benefit. So that's basically the package. What you'll notice is the page is going to be expired shortly. Basically, as I said, it's a limited time offer. And I don't really use this, I don't really offer this program more than a couple times a year. So, other parts to my promotion of this webinar was I said I'll teach you the simple way to present case fees and payment plan options that will not confuse your patients. And then the case presentation secret that will allow you to use the best labs in Ceramis while not decreasing your bottom line due to their higher fees, because better labs have higher fees, which is just normal, and it makes sense because they obviously are going to spend more time on the cases. So let's look at this. And both of these are basically taken care of by this simple document. So if you look at this simple document, you might not be able to see it really clearly on the webinar screen, so I'm going to read it to you. And it's basically, and you receive this with Velocity Elite in the document package on the membership site. And it's basically my template for case presentations. And I could use this for veneers. I could use this for full mouth rehabilitation. I use this same template for implants. And it's basically, dear such and such, here's the estimate for your cosmetic and restorative dentistry. This treatment involves placing, and then this is where we can customize it. And in this case, it was placing a total of 28 restorations to open your bite, restore fractured and worn teeth, and improve your smile. And the rest of that line can be easily customized for whatever case the case is. And then I say, this treatment will restore your dentition to a more ideal and functional and aesthetic condition. Please note the lab fee is an estimate and can vary plus or minus 10%. The dentist fees are fixed for a period of 6 months and will not increase unless the actual treatment was to change due to some unforeseen reason. For example, a tooth requires root canal therapy, in which case I would refer them to an endodontist. This estimate includes all steps to provide you with an excellent aesthetic and functional result, including diagnostic wax-up, old filling removal, core buildups, preparations, bite adjustments, prototype or temporary and final restorations, and then dentist fee, 28 porcelain restorations, and everything above. My dentist fee for this particular case was $34,950, and then the lab fee was $17,245.52 US funds. Now here's the key. If you separate dentist fee and lab fee, you can use whatever lab you want. It doesn't matter because they will, the lab fee is different from your fee. So you could put underneath this total fee. I don't do that, but I just tell the patient the total fee is dentist fee plus lab fee. And in some cases, especially years ago when I started using Herald, I would give the patients two fees. I'd say lab fee A, lab fee B. Lab fee A is Herald. It's the highest lab fee, but he's the best ceramist. Lab fee B is a decent ceramist. They'll do good work, maybe not quite as aesthetic, and maybe not quite as precise bite and fit. And it's cheaper. Which would you prefer? Lab fee A, lab fee B. Do you want the best ceramist I can find, or do you want something that's a little less expensive? And that, again, doesn't matter to you which lab you're going to use because it doesn't reflect the dentist fee. The dentist fee is the same, although it should be more expensive with the cheaper lab because you're going to spend likely more time on the case. But I did it the same. I do it the same in lab fee A, lab fee B. And most of the time I found doing this, most patients actually elected for the more expensive, better lab, depending on what the case is. And then breakdown for payments or the payment plan would be as follow. A deposit of $10,000 is required to start the case and have the lab complete the diagnostic wax-up. Number two, at the initial preparation appointment, another payment of $24,950 is due, which completes the payment for my treatment at the initial preparation appointment. At the final impression appointment, or sometimes I say the final bite record appointment, the lab fee will be due. I think it's critical to collect on these big cases the lab fee before the lab actually does the ceramic work. That way you don't have a problem of being out of the lab fee. I hope this information is helpful for you. Let me know if you require any additional information. And then these other examples are, different types of rehabs with similar idea of what we write, just different fees and different number of units. And so these are all on the Velocity membership site. Again, simple way to present fees and payment plan options. This is for elective dentistry. With elective dentistry, most of it's not covered by insurance. So I don't really feel the need to give them this huge itemized list of treatment, huge itemized list of the different things in the treatment. So I just don't. I give them that. And if they have really good insurance with a really high max, we will submit an insurance estimate if they insist. But most of the time, if they have $2,000 maximum for major restorative, I tell them, you know what, I'm not even going to submit an estimate because you have so much work that's needed. It's all going to be covered to the max anyway. I'm not going to submit an estimate ahead of time when your max is so low compared to the amount of dentistry you need. So basically don't bother. And that's just the way I do it. You could do it however you want, but that's been very effective for me for, I would say, about 15 years, that template. And I've used it for probably 15, 16 years. And those payment plan options are pretty much what I've done. I don't finance. We don't use any of those third parties. I think that I tell my patients, any of these third party payment plans, you're going to be paying more interest than you would just using your line of credit at your bank. So if you don't have the funds directly available, I've had patients who use a bank line of credit, which is at a very low interest rate compared to any of these dental finance plans. Even though they say they offer, 6 months, no payments, but then as soon as they start the payments, it's huge interest rates, unless they're able to, in 6 months, pay it off in full. And then credit card. not a good idea to finance this on your credit card. I tell them that as well and say, don't finance it on your credit card. Use a bank line of credit, or if you don't have the funds actually available, like cash. So I've had a number of patients who have gone out, got a bank line of credit at a very low rate, 3.5%, 4%, 3%, and financed their cases that way. And that's what I recommend. And it takes me out of it. And then they have the whole line of credit available. They can pay for the case right up front. Case presentation secret that'll allow you to use the best labs. I think just separating your fee and the lab fee, completely separate line items, makes a huge difference. And if you're worried about it and using a lab like Herald with pretty expensive lab fees, just do 2 lab fee options. Lab fee A, this is the best ceramist you can use for your case. Lab fee B, this is a cheaper ceramist, not as good as the best ceramist, but definitely cheaper. And that's basically what I told them. And the majority of people said to me, I'll use the best ceramist, even though it's more money. Especially with cosmetic dentistry. So hopefully those 2 little secrets there will give you some information that could really help you with your case presentations and gaining, again, more case acceptance. Here's a quote that was on, it's actually under, if you scroll down on the Facebook comments below the 2 bonus videos you received, you'll see this comment, and it's from Nathan from Phoenix. He's one of my members. And he says, since I took your course about 2 years ago, my office has been transformed. I always wanted to do large and complex cases, was unsure how to plan these cases, how to do the cases, and most importantly, how to present the cases to patients. And we implemented your systems, and my functional analysis is a staple in my office for anyone who wants comprehensive reconstruction and cosmetic restorations. I love being able to confidently present these types of cases. The bonus to the bottom line is also a big plus. The bonus to the bottom line is also a big plus. So that's really cool. That is really cool. So, this works. This completely works. It totally works. So once again, thanks for joining me on this webinar. I hope you've learned some strategies you can use to master your case acceptance. If you want to take this to the next level, join my Velocity Elite program. We will send you this USB drive with my case presentation templates on it. You can use this to increase the case acceptance in your practice. As I said, just use that 3-slide series for structurally compromised teeth, and I believe you'll pay for this system, this entire package, within 1 to 2 months with new crown cases. You'll also receive a download for these JPEG images. You'll receive my full mouth rehabilitation photo book. You'll receive my Stunning Smiles Are Our Business photo book. You'll receive 2 copies of my Smile Design photo book. So you're going to get 2 of those. So this is a great package that you'll receive. All of this, we're going to mail this to your practice. If you're new to Velocity Elite, meaning you're not an occlusion design member already, you'll also receive my clinical bonus package, which includes my functional occlusion online DVD set, along with the binder that has been designed to go with this set, a very detailed binder. You'll also receive my equilibration planning and techniques DVD set. Really great video filmed in my microscope. You'll receive my predictable bite records DVD set. You'll receive my Changing the Vertical Dimension DVD set. And you'll receive my Mounting and Evaluating Study Models DVD set. So again, for your tuition fee, investment of, I think it's $59.94 or $59.97, you're going to receive all of this sent to your practice. As one of my members, Will Wyatt, says, this is the best value in dentistry. It seems like a big investment, but just using that structurally compromised Keynote slide series of 3 slides, I believe with that you can increase your case acceptance on crown cases dramatically and be able to pay for this package within a couple of months. And then you've got all this other benefit, all this other benefit. So thank you again for joining me on this webinar. Remember, you can do this kind of dentistry. I believe that beautiful and precise dentistry is not just for the gurus. Thank you so much.